Cannot make this decision. It is too difficult.
Toy? Oh, it's not a toy.
Ask again later.
To get out of bounds. Rogers along the sideline. Another one. They're still in deep trouble at midfield. They tried to do a couple of... The ball is still loose as they get it to Rogers. They give it back now to the 30. They're down to the 20. Oh, the field is out of the field.
He's not good enough.
Will Game Day Sports Radio pick me?
Has some time. Now he scrambles away from one hit. Looks. Uncorks a deep one for the end zone. Salem is down there. Oh, he got it! He got it! He got it! Touchdown!
Will, Steve, Coach, glad you could join us today.
Glad to be here.
Saw some interesting things last week. Never saw a ball hit off the top of the upright and bounce back. Guys who threw 6 touchdowns and still didn't win the game. So crazy weekend, but it was nice, as you put it last week, Coach, to get rid of some of the cupcakes on the schedule and start to see some good games.
Yeah, glad that Texas A&M and Arkansas was a really fun game to watch. I thought Arkansas just made some boneheaded mistakes that cost him the game, and it's not on the field goal kicker. He never should have been put in that situation.
All right, guys, unless you got anything, let's get to it. All right, first game on the slate today is Oklahoma at TCU. Will, why don't you start us off today?
Yeah, we got a 6.5 point spread. Obviously, Oklahoma's quarterback Dylan Gabriel is already over 1,000 yards already this season with 11 touchdowns. So, I mean, he's playing pretty well. I guess my biggest question, honestly, is defense. You know, after Oklahoma giving up 5 touchdowns to K-State last week, you know, how does that defense respond? How does Venables have them playing this upcoming week against TCU? In my opinion, that's just the biggest question. But I got Oklahoma in this one. I think Venables, puts a little fire into them, and I think they get the job done.
Yeah, I think you got some interesting questions there with defense and things like that, Will. And because of that, I'm going to go ahead and go with TCU. I think TCU is on a roll, and I think they may have some holes to fix it at Oklahoma. Coach?
Going with the Sooners. I think they bounced back from the Kansas State loss. Kansas State's a pretty good football team. They've had Oklahoma's number, I think 3 of the last 5 years. So I'm going with the Sooners to bounce back here.
Dave?
Well, Will, you brought up a question about defense. I think TCU is going through the transition from Gary Patterson to Sonny Dykes. I don't think the Horned Frogs have enough defense this year. Oklahoma's won 8 straight, the past 2 by an average of 20 in this series. I look for Dylan Gabriel to have a big day and Boomer Sooner.
There you go. There you go. Well, I'm not going to forget him this week, guys. The 8 ball goes with TCU. TCU. So
8 balls.
Interesting pick.
8 balls.
8 balls on 1. You think so? Would you go 3-7 last week, Coach? I don't know if you might not want to give him a hard time again. Didn't work out so well for you last time. Well, Coach, since you seem to have a lot to talk about, why don't you preview the next game for us? Kentucky at Ole Miss.
Rebs are almost a touchdown favorite here. I wish this were a Saturday night game. The fans in the Grove, they'd be out there all day having their little hottie toddies, and they would be juiced. Both coaches, great fit for both schools. Listen, Mark Stoops has done a great job at Kentucky. He's used to having to deal with big brothers, okay, Bob and Ron and Mike. As a matter of fact, Mark Stoops gets so little respect. I called him Mike a few weeks ago on a show. But he understands where he fits in at Kentucky. He's built a great culture there. Lane Kiffin, he's Mr. Party Man. Joey Freshwater, as we all know him from his days as offensive coordinator at Alabama. And they're just a perfect fit for these two schools. And they got 2 quarterbacks that fit their personalities. Will Levis at Kentucky, a very tough kid. Jason Dart, very athletic at Ole Miss. Both these schools, they were sluggish last week. I think they were looking forward to this game. Now, this is the best team that the Rebels have faced. Lance Kiffin, he knows how to score points. Kentucky, ball control and defense. I think that's going to frustrate this fast break offense of Ole Miss, take the crowd out of the game. It's, as we said, it's an early game. I like Kentucky. I'm going with Wildcats.
Ole Miss is averaging an SEC best 281 yards a game rushing, and they have the best passing game that Kentucky has faced all year. I look for Ole Miss to get it done at home.
There you go. Will?
I've gone back and forth with this game. Just I don't really know why, but, the lack of support Ole Miss is getting, from students and fans, and, they're ranked number 14 in the nation. And this is going to be a top 15 matchup. I think it's going to be a great game. I expect the crowd to be good, maybe. It depends. In my opinion, it depends on the atmosphere. If the Ole Miss fans show up, I got Ole Miss. But if not, I got Kentucky. But I'm going to pick the home team in this one. I got Ole Miss.
Yeah, I'm like Coach. I wish this was a night game. I think that's going to be one of the things that could factor into what the crowd is like. Kentucky has been tested on the road, and they've shown that they can do it. But I think Ole Miss is a little bit, I wouldn't say flying under the radar, but I think a little bit unrespected. I'm going to go with Ole Miss as well. So, Andy 8-Ball likes Ole Miss. You feel better about that one, Coach?
8-Ball's 0-2.
Wake Forest is ranked 22nd in the country, coming off a heartbreaking overtime loss to Clemson. Florida State is ranked 23rd, 4-0, and entering the game off an easy win over Boston College. The Wake Forest Demon Deacons gives up too many big plays on defense. Quarterback Sam Hartman threw a school record 6 touchdown passes last week against Clemson, and it still wasn't enough. Last season, the Demon Deacons put a hurting on the Noles, 35-14, and with this game at Doak Campbell Stadium, I look for Chief Osceola and the Seminoles to get a big bite of payback, FSU to win.
Wow. All right. Well,
I didn't pick Wake Forest last week against Clemson, and they put up a heck of a fight. Went into double overtime, obviously, playing well. But I've been to a game down at Florida State. It's a crazy atmosphere, and I think Florida State definitely wins.
You throw 6 touchdown passes in a game and you don't win. I think you come in the next week a little upset, a little ready to go. So I think Wake Forest is going to have a big game. I'm not convinced that FSU has really shown that they're back yet. So I'm going to go with Wake Forest on the road. Coach?
Think that the Seminoles are playing with a lot of confidence. They showed they could get behind and come back versus Louisville a couple of weeks ago. I think a lot of people looked at the LSU game and said, well, they didn't play that good and this, that, and the other. I think the Seminoles are back on the right track, and I don't think they're back to the days of Bobby Bowden yet. But I think Mike Norvell, I think he's got the guys pointed in the right direction. They're buying into what he's selling. I go for Florida State here.
There you go. Well, the 8-Ball likes Wake Forest. He agrees. 6 touchdown passes. You're going to come in the next week ready to go. So Iowa State and Kansas. It's not basketball season yet, and Kansas finds themselves still with a lot to look forward to during football season. Big turnaround there. Iowa State comes into Kansas. Kansas continues to seem to get it done. Got to admit, I was a little disappointed in Iowa State last week. I thought that they would – I know it was a tough game at home. Just thought they would do a little bit more there. I'm not sure that they get it done on the road. I think Kansas still has some magic going. I'm going to go ahead and stick with Rock Chalk Jayhawk. Kansas gets this one done at home. Coach?
Hey, I'm with you. It's all about Kansas. They were one of my favorite rock groups growing up, and I'm sticking with them. Point of no return, going with Kansas.
Steve?
This is the best rush defense in the Big 12 for Iowa State. I think it's the first good run defense that Kansas has run into this year. They're giving up just 2.7 yards a carry. I think Kansas's Achilles heel is on the other side of the ball. Their defense is not as strong. Iowa State controls the clock and does just enough to get the win on the road.
I like it. All right. Will?
Yeah, no, I agree. When would we ever think that we were picking Kansas in a football game? But I'm going to jump on the bandwagon. I'm going to pick Kansas in this one.
Well, the 8 ball, since it is the magic 8 ball, is going to stick with the magic of the Jayhawks and go with Rock Chalk Jayhawk at Kansas. The 8 ball likes Kansas. Steve, go ahead and head down about an hour and a half down I-35 into Waco, and you're going to have the Oklahoma State versus Baylor. Who do you like?
Come after me. I'm a man. I'm 40.
All right, I think this is an interesting matchup. Oklahoma State at 3-0, Baylor at 3-1. Baylor defeated the Cowboys 21-16 in last year's Big 12 championship game. Baylor has won 7 of the past 11 meetings. Oklahoma State, led by dual threat QB Spencer Sanders, who averages over 300 yards a game passing. He's thrown 10 touchdowns this year and only 1 interception. He's also rushed for over 100 yards and 3 TDs. Oklahoma State's weakness has been pass defense. They gave up 265 yards a game, which ranks 103rd nationally. I think Blake Shapen, the sophomore QB, is playing well for the Bears. And so in this one, I'm going to go with the road team. I think Mike Gundy gets it done. Give me Oklahoma State.
There you go. Will?
I like Oklahoma State in this one as well. I don't know. I picked Baylor a couple weeks ago, and they let me down. So I'm holding a grudge a little bit in this one.
Well, I'm going the opposite on that because I picked against Baylor, and they seem to have burned me. And I just think Dave Aranda, he has shown that they are a solid football team. I think that was it was a very tough loss up at BYU, but they fought to the end, and I haven't seen them give up anything since they lost that game. So I'm going to go ahead and go with Baylor at home. Coach?
When I saw this game on the schedule, I didn't care what the stats were. I didn't care what the breakdown was. I'm going Oklahoma State because if you've ever been to Stillwater, Oklahoma, you got to go to Eskimo Joe's. You get the best burger in the world at Eskimo Joe's. So I'm going Eskimo Joe, Oklahoma State.
Well, apparently the 8 ball's not into burgers because he likes the Baylor Bears. So we've got the 8 ball with Baylor Bears. So, all right, Coach, we find an interesting game this week. Texas A&M on the road at Mississippi State into Starkville. Texas A&M off of 2 exciting, but I would say did not perform well wins. But what do you think?
Well, the difference between Texas A&M winning and losing has been turnovers. Versus Miami and Arkansas, they won the turnover battle in both those games. Against Appy State, they lost the turnover battle. Now, you look at this game, the Bulldogs are a 4-point favorite coming out of Vegas. Max Johnson for the Aggies, he's limited his mistakes at quarterback. Will Rogers, quarterback for the Bulldogs, 16 touchdowns and only 3 interceptions. State's defense, they need to get better. And they have gotten better, but they need to get a lot better. The Aggies, I think this could be an emotional letdown after Arkansas. And we know how Pirates love hurricanes, okay, even though, they just do. So this is a Mike Leach kind of game. And, he's all fired up. He's probably checking on his place in Key West down there, making sure it's okay. But I'm going Mike Leach. I'm going Mississippi State, going with the home team.
Steve?
Whenever I watch these 2 teams play, it takes me about a quarter and a half to figure out who's who with all that maroon on the field. I think the Aggies offense, to me, looks broken. Top wide receiver Anais Smith is now out for the year. I think Mississippi State will play keep away, and the Bulldogs defense, did I just say defense on a Mike Leach coach team, will do enough to secure the win.
Will?
I agree. I think there's still too many questions with Texas A&M right now. But I like the Cowbells at home. I got the Bulldogs.
Yeah, I think neither one of these teams has proven they're easy to pick. They don't really seem to have either side of the football where they've dominated. Turnover battle, I think, has been key, but I agree with Coach. They get a letdown this week, and with Mississippi State being at home, I think that's what tips the scale. So I'm going with Mississippi State as well. And 8-Ball agrees Mississippi State. So in Starkville. So, all right. Next game, NC State at Clemson. Clemson started off, I wouldn't say shaky, but hard to really get behind them consistently. But I think the one thing that they have shown consistently is they show up each week and find a way to get it done. Sometimes it hadn't been pretty. Sometimes they haven't put the numbers up. They face an NC State team that has been solid, that has shown that they're ready to be talked about in the ACC. But I think the fact that this game is at Clemson, I think Clemson's got a few more weapons. I'm going to go with Clemson. Coach?
Got to go with the Tigers, too. If you look at their numbers for the last 6-7 years and you take away the Clemson brand off of it, you're thinking, my gosh, this is an outstanding football team. It's a great program, and it is. But I don't think college football fans, I don't think even some Clemson fans give Dabo enough credit for what he's built there at Clemson. I like the Tigers in this one.
Steve.
First ever meeting between these two schools with them both ranked in the top 10. Clemson's offense ranked 20th in the country, averaging 43.8 points per game. I think they're going to make it tough on Wolfpack quarterback Devin Leary. I'm going with Clemson.
Well, I see you got the Auburn shirt on. Is that going to tip your hand?
That's my pick for later. No, man, I got Clemson at home too. I agree. I think they find a way to get the job done. I believe it's going to be a really, really good football game. But I got Clemson at home.
All right. And the 8-Ball likes Clemson at home as well. He likes the Tigers. He likes what Dabo's done, and he likes the program that he's built. So, well, Will, since you got the Auburn shirt on and you got your little magic 8-Ball right there in your lap with you, obviously helping you make your picks today, why don't you go ahead and talk to us about the LSU Auburn game?
Yeah, I put a lot of notes on this one. Auburn is 11-2 on games played on October 1st, and Auburn is 7-2 in home games that are kicked off at 6 p.m. and on ESPN, which we have both of those this weekend. Auburn is also 9-0 when playing with a 3-1 record. So they're also playing at home at Jordan-Hare. Who knows what's going to happen at Jordan-Hare? So I like the Tigers in this one, but the good Tigers. I like Auburn.
Well, that's great, Will. With that, math is usually one of the most reliable things that you can rely on in this world. They always say, there's always a constant in math and it never changes. But, when you're digging that deep into stats, I think you're looking for some desperation there. I do think that Auburn may have a chance, but I don't think they have a good chance. I think they've just got too much turmoil down there, too many question marks. I'm going to go with LSU. Coach?
Well, if you'll notice, Will chose Auburn. He's wearing an Auburn shirt, but it's an Auburn baseball shirt from the World Series.
It is.
So, yes. So I think he's hedging his bet there. He's going to come back and say, well, I was picking Auburn in the World Series there. All right. Listen, Auburn and Missouri last week, they played a hold my beer game, and that's exactly what happened. There's no way Auburn should have gotten out of there with a win. Missouri, you miss a field goal that I think I could probably have made. And then we're going to reach the ball out when there's actually no reason to do so, and we're going to give up the winning touchdown. And again, I'm not knocking Auburn. As a matter of fact, I picked Auburn, so I was happy they won. But LSU, they're coming in. I think Brian Kelly. I think once they start buying into his philosophy, and they've seen some success lately, I like the LSU Tigers in this one.
All right.
Can I make my pick?
Sure. Go ahead. I just figured we already know which way you were going to go.
Well, listening to those statistics from our Auburn fan, it sounded almost like he was saying on Thursdays wearing blue jerseys against teams whose first name starts with the letter L. We were digging pretty deep there to come up with some reason why his squad might win. The way I look at it, Auburn is struggling to protect their quarterback. I don't see Jaden Daniels in that offense being able to score enough to keep up with LSU. So I will take the Bengal Tigers on the road.
I think the 8-ball thinks that Brian Kelly's got what it takes. He goes with LSU. So, Steve, we know you love staying up late. We know you love the Pac-12. So why don't you go ahead and preview this next game for us? We got Cal at Washington State on the Pac-12, a game I know you'll stay up late to watch.
Always. So Cal has lost 6 of their past 7 road games. Jack, don't call me Jake Plummer, completes 61% of his passes. The Bears average 177 yards a game on the ground. Washington State has won 6 of 9 at home. Quarterback Cameron Ward completing 69% of his throws. Both defenses have struggled. So I think this will be a typical Pac-12 shootout. And I'm going to go with the upset. I will take Cal.
Like Cal on the road. Very good. Will.
I picked Cal last week only because of Auburn, and they proved me right. So I'm going to go Cal again this week.
I think that Washington State has kind of lost some very close, good games. But if you look at where they've lost in those games, they haven't really played well. If you look at the stats, they probably shouldn't even been in those games. They are at home, but I'm going to go with Cal. I think Washington State, the way they're playing finally catches up to them, but I'm going to go with Cal. Coach?
This is one of those games where I started doing research and my mind started wandering. And back in my younger days when I was single, I met a girl from Washington State, and she was one of the best kissers I've ever had. I'm going Washington State.
There you go. The lips have it, huh, Coach?
Lips have it.
There you go. Well, maybe you should kiss the magic 8-ball because the 8-ball likes Washington State as well.
8-ball's getting smarter this today
as it goes on.
Yeah.
Last game of the night, and I think again probably a little shocking that we have this one. If you talk about a year ago, usually a great ACC basketball matchup, Duke at Virginia.
Yeah, as you said, a couple of basketball schools still going at it. Duke went out and of course they battled it with Kansas. I don't know if a lot of people really watched that game. I did. It was a very good game, very fundamentally sound football. Very impressed with both these schools. This is going to be a battle of first-year head coaches. One thing that I do know, UVA is 0-7 versus Power 5 schools. The only 2 wins they have over the last 9 games came from 1AA and mid-major. Their last win versus a Power 5 school was Georgia Tech last October, and it was by 8 points. And of course, and my friend Jeff Collins just got let go from Georgia Tech on Monday, so you see how far they had fallen. Bronco Mendenhall, he was not a good fit at Virginia. It really wouldn't have been a good fit at any school on the East Coast. He's a West Coast. He's an old WAC conference kind of guy. I think Tony Elliott, who came over from Clemson, is going to do a great job. It's going to take him some time to reestablish a winning culture there at Virginia. Mike Elko, most recently defensive coordinator at Texas A&M and at Notre Dame. He comes into a situation where they didn't have a great record last year, but David Cutcliffe left him a good group and a good culture. Riley Leonard, a sophomore from Fairhope, Alabama, he's thrown for over 1,000 yards. But more importantly, it's not just 1,000 yards. He's completed 73% of his passes. Duke is a slight favorite at home. I look at the emotion that they put into that game last week at Kansas. I think they're able to put that behind them. I think they're able to get the win over Virginia. I take the Blue Devils.
Hey, Coach, you mentioned Georgia Tech. Any insight on Deion Sanders as the next head coach there that there's been a lot of noise about this week? People watching Flight Tracker and all that?
Yeah, I think the operative word in that sentence is noise.
Steve, who do you like?
I think Duke's offense is strong. They put up 463 yards against Kansas, 23 first downs. averaged 6.5 yards a play. Meanwhile, Virginia was struggling against Syracuse. I look for this one to come down to the wire, but I'll go with the Blue Devils in a close one.
Will?
Well, I think Duke might be the better football team in this game. I can't do it as a Tar Heel, so I'm going Virginia, even if it hurts my record. I mean, my record's already in the tank anyway, so what's another loss?
I'm not sure I'd be claiming a Tar Heel last week after the way they played against Notre Dame. Not only did they, it'd be one thing to lose that game, but the way they lost it with all the hype coming in and the way they've been playing. So that was, I think, probably one of the more disappointing performances of the weekend for me last week was the way North Carolina came out, because they just didn't seem to want to be there to play football. Looked like they were already looking forward to basketball season.
Yeah, I agree.
That said, I like Duke. I think Duke has more consistency going under their belt with the program. I think you mentioned earlier, Coach, the culture that has been built there. I think there's some more consistency there. I think Virginia may have a chance to be decent down the road, but I think they need a few more games and maybe a few more seasons to kind of build some of that. So I'm going to go with Duke. And the 8-Ball likes Duke as well. So there you go. There you have it, guys. So very interesting week in college football. So we come up to another interesting weekend as we kick off October. Coaches usually like to say it. We start to see a lot more of exciting games as opposed to some of those powder puffs, and we start to get into the games that matter more, into the conference matchups as everybody vies for that berth in the conference championship. So anything you guys want to add? Anything exciting you guys see out there heading into the weekend?
I'll tell you, I'm looking forward to that Kentucky Ole Miss game. I think that's going to set the tone. I think, and again, I picked Kentucky, and I stand by that pick. But if Ole Miss can get some confidence on defense and they start playing well, I don't think anybody can stop them from scoring points.
No, I agree. And I think you have an opportunity. I think there's some teams out there that have shown, maybe been a little bit hard to get behind. And with some of the games they have this week, you find out if they're the real deal or not, or if they do have some places that they're exposed. Clemson being one of them. Baylor has a chance to prove that BYU loss was somewhat, and I wouldn't say a fluke, but one that's not going to hold them back as they continue to go. Where's Mississippi State and Texas A&M? Two big question marks there. So I think we get a lot of questions answered this weekend. Steve, you're going to, especially Steve, I think the biggest question probably get answered this weekend is with your closet fan of the Noles.
Definitely be watching that one, and because of family reasons, I am contractually obligated to keep an eye on the Texas A&M game. My son may not be tuning in to any more shows if I pick against Texas A&M anymore.
Yeah, I know you had a rough homecoming there. So Will, you're always welcome to bring your guest picker on. I think we'll see how you do. We might, in fact, if you do well this week, we may make a swap. We'll trade her for you any day of the week.
Look, anything's better than what I've been doing, so I'm taking all the help I can get.
Well, guys, thank you very much. Fans, we will be revealing your picks later. They should be on the website. We appreciate you guys starting this week to challenge the H-ball out there. We're excited to have some fan participation. So, guys, for this week on the Crazy 8-Ball Pick'em Challenge, thank you very much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next week.